Hello and welcome to Compound Interest and Compound Measurements with me, Bill Haining. Now the objective of this session is to calculate simple interest in multiples of 5% on amounts of money, calculate discounts in multiples of 5% on amount of money, calculate amounts of money, compound interest, percentage increases and decreases, and discounts including tax and simple budgeting. And finally, calculate using compound measures including speed, density, and rates of pay. Now, calculating percentages with a calculator is a simple process, but what if you don't have a calculator? Let's look at the question and I will show you how to solve this relatively simply. Now, Denise starts up a business making candles. She borrows £2,500 for 1 year. The interest on the loan is 5% per year. How much will Denise pay back in total? Well, £25,000 divided by 10 equals £250, and that is the value of 10%. So all you then do is half of 250 is 125, which is 5%, and that's how you calculate 5% using percentages without a calculator. You just divide by 10, and you do that by moving the decimal point one place to the left. In this case gives you 250, and you just half it. 2,500 plus 125 means that you're paying back 2,625. So Denise will pay back 2,625. Now, a customer wants to buy a wash machine which costs £480. He will pay in 10 equal monthly instalments. He will pay an interest charge of 15%. So how much will he pay back in total? Let's go through it. Again, 480 divided by 10 gives you 48, which is a value of 10%. All you then do is add half of the 48, which is 24. So 28 and 42 is £72. So £72 is the 15% interest on £480. Therefore, 480 plus 72 equals £552. So the customer will pay back £552 with the 15% added. Now this formula works just the same when calculating discounts on money. Now let's look at a typical question and you will see how this works. Shane wants to buy a standard train ticket from Sheffield to London this Saturday. It costs him £34 for a ticket, but he has a voucher for a 15% discount. So what is the new cost of the ticket he purchases? So it's £34 divided by 10. So 10% is £3.40. We take half of that £3.40, which is £1.70, and if we add it to the £3.40, you can see this will give you a total value of 15%. Okay, so £3.40 plus £1.70 is £5.10. So that means Shane will get £5.10 off his £34, and that will give him the cost of the new ticket, which you can see there is £28.90. So the ticket will cost Shane £28.90 with the 15% off. Okay, so now you try it. Now a customer wants to buy a dress in a sale in a clothes shop. The customer has £30. The sale price is 30% off the original price of £45. Can the customer afford to buy the dress? So pause the video and see if you can get the answer correct. So how did you do? 45 minus £13.50 means that the dress costs £31.50, so the customer can't afford the dress. If you got that answer, well done. Now Nicola wants to buy 50 litres of paint. She sees this special offer, and you can see the special offer here. Nicola wants to use this special offer. She has a budget of £100 for the paint. Does Nicola have enough money to buy 30 litres of paint? Again, pause the video and see if you can work it out. So how did you do? Let's have a look. So 38 minus £5.50 is £32.30. 32.3 times 3 equals £96.90 for 30 litres. So yes, Nicola has enough money. And if you've got 96.90, then well done. Now let's look at simple and compound interest. We'll start with simple interest and I'll show you how it works. Now let's take £1,000 and invest it over 3 years at 10% interest. Now with simple interest, you're only paid interest on your initial investment. So you can see here that in year 1, you invest £1,000, you make 10% profit, and we know already that's £100. So you make £1,100 return for the first year. Now when it comes to year 2, again, you only paid interest on your initial investment. So again, you make £100 in the second year, and it's the same for the third year. You only paid interest on your initial investment, which is £100. Now if you add that all together after 3 years, you can see that you've made £300 profit. So your return is £1,300 on your initial investment. Now let's look at compound interest. Compound interest, you are paid interest on your running total investment year on year. And let me show you how that works. Okay, so year 1, it's just going to be like simple interest. You can see you're paid 10% on your £1,000 initial investment and you make £100 profit. But what's the difference now? Let's look at year 2. Now instead of being paid your 10% on this number here, you're paid 10% on your running total. Okay, so you can see now your investment has moved up to £1,100. You add the 10% to that number and you can see now your total profit is £210. And if you carry that on to the third year, you use this 1,210 to work out your next 10%. And you can see that after 3 years, okay, your profit is £331. So you're getting £1,331 return on your initial investment of £1,000. So what interest would you choose if you want to make money? Well, I would certainly think about the compound interest. I'll show you how the formula for compound interest works with profit and loss. So let's look at profit first. Now Sebastian leaves £3,000 in the bank for 2 years. It earns compound interest of 5% per year. And it says calculate the amount Sebastian has in the bank at the end of 2 years. Okay, well it's fairly simple. You start with your £3,000, you add 5%, and to that total you add another 5%. Okay, and you can see that his return on his initial investment of £3,000 is £307.50. Okay, so all you do in your calculator is type in 3,000, add 5%, press the equal buttons, add 5% again, press the equal button, and that should give you that figure there. So let's have a look at another example. Fiona leaves £1,600 in the bank for 4 years. It earns compound interest of 5% each year. Calculate the total amount Fiona has in the bank at the end of 4 years. Again, relatively simple. You start with your initial investment of £1,600 and every year you just keep adding 5% to that running total. Just as you did with the compound interest in the bank. Okay, and you can see then that after 4 years, Fiona running total now is £1,944.81. So she has made over £300 profit. The formula for compound interest works when the value is depreciated or you have a loss. So a car was bought for £18,000. Its value depreciated by 15% each year for the first 3 years. What was its value at the end of 3 years? Again, you start with your initial investment of £18,000, but in this case you deduct 15% year on year on the running total. So by the end of 3 years, the value of that car has been reduced to £11,054.25. Now here's another example. The value of a television was £600 on the 1st of March 2021. Every 4 months, the value of the television decreased by 8% of its value at the start of that 4 months. So what was the value of the television on the 1st of March 2022? Now be careful with a question like this. The biggest mistake people make is they think that there's four months in a year because of the word four, but there actually only is 4 months. So be careful. All right, you can see there's your initial investment, and you're losing 8% month every 4 months. You're losing 8%. So if you start with your initial investment, take 8% of every 4 months, you should end up with a figure of £467.21. And that's how you use compound interest to calculate a loss. Now calculate using compound measures including speed, density and rates of pay. Let's look at rates of pay. Now rate of pay is just your pay divided by the hours worked, and that equals your rate of pay. Okay, so weekly pay is £420 at 38 hours. So what is the hourly rate? It's relatively simple. You just take 420 divided by 38, and you can see that is £11.05 per hour. So now you try it. Selma is paid £24,674 a year. She works 36.5 hours a week. How much is she paid per hour? So pause the video and have a go. So how did you do? Did you break it down into weeks and then hours? So 24,674 divided by 52 gives the weekly wage of £474.50. You then take that money and divide it by 36.5 hours, which is her weekly wage of £13. So Salma is paid £13 per hour. If you got £13, well done. Now Zain is paid £17 per hour. How much does he get for working 81.5 hours? Pause the video and have a go. So how did you do? 17 times 81.5 is £1,385.50. So Zain is paid £1,385.50 for 81.5 hours. Now let's look at speed. Now the formula for speed is the distance divided by time, and that gives you speed. Okay, if it takes 3 hours to drive 192 kilometers on the motorway, what would your average speed be in kilometers? Well, we know the formula is just the distance divided by the time. So it's 192 divided by 3, and that gives you 64 kilometers per hour. A truck travels 120 miles in 3 hours. What is the lorry's average speed? Again, the clue's in the question. 120 divided by 3, and you can see there that he's travelling at 40 kilometers per hour. All you have to do with speed is remember the formula, distance divided by time. Okay, so now you try it. A car drives 120 miles in 3 hours. Calculate the average speed in miles per hour of the car. 120 divided by 3 is 40 miles per hour. A helicopter flies 240 miles in 2 hours and 30 minutes. Calculate the average speed in miles per hour of the helicopter. Again, stop the video, have a go. So how did you do? 240 divided by 2.5 shows that the helicopter was travelling at 96 miles per hour. Now Harry cycles 8 kilometres in 30 minutes. Calculate the average speed in kilometres per hour. Again, pause the video, see how you do. Did you get it right? Okay, so it's just 8 divided by 0.5, and you can see that he's travelling at 40 kilometres per hour. So if you got these 3 answers, well done. Now let's look at density. Okay, it's similar to the formula for speed. Now it's mass divided by volume equals density. Now they'll give you the clues in the question. You can see in the question they'll give you the mass, they'll give you the volume and ask you to work out the density. So you know these two numbers are going to be involved. So it's just remembering that you take the mass and divide it by the volume, and that will give you the density. Okay, so you can see in this case 10 divided by 10.9 gives you 0.92 grams per centimetre cubed. Now when because these are two different denominations, this is centimetres cubed and this is grams, you keep both of them. Okay, that is in your final answer. And don't forget, because you're working in volume, you're working with volume and density, so you put your little to the power of 3 to show that volume's involved. And you can round that off to 2 decimal places, okay, which is 0.92. Let's have a look at another question. Right, a piece of wood has a mass of 8 grams and a volume of 10 centimeters cubed. And it says work out the density of the wood. Well, it's telling you the mass, it's telling you the volume, so therefore they're looking for the answer, which is density. All you have to do, remember, is 8 divided by 10, and that will give you the answer. So 8 divided by 10 means that the density is 0.8 grams per centimeter cubed. Don't forget, when these are different, you have to save them. Okay, so that is density. All right, so now you try it. A solid silver spoon has a mass of 65.1. The volume of the spoon is 6.2 centimeters cubed. Calculate the density of the silver. Again, the question is giving you the answer basically. All right, so you've got the mass, you've got the volume. You know from the question they want to find out the missing part, which is density. So it's just the mass divided by density, and that will give you 10.5 grams per centimeters cubed. Remember to add that to your final answer. Okay, let's have another one. A glass cube is a volume of 25 centimeters cubed and a mass of 306.25 grams. Calculate the density of the glass. Again, pause the video. How did you do? Well, the answer's in the question. Okay, so it's 306 divided by 25, and that gives you a density of 12.25 grams per centimeters cubed. Always remember with math questions, they will give you clues in the questions to solve the puzzle. It's just about understanding and reading the question correctly. And that is compound interest and compound measurements. So thank you.